John Lusk here of Lusk Archery Adventures. Serious testing, successful hunting. Today I'm doing a retest. I'm doing a retest of the Annihilator Broadhead, 125 grain. The reason I'm doing a retest is a few months ago, I tested it for the first time. It performed extremely well in terms of penetration, in terms of draining a water jug, in terms of the hole that it produced in a layer of MDF. I was really impressed with all that. It flew really well. It actually tested really well for me out to 50 yards, but beyond 50 yards, there just seemed to be an incredible drastic drop in the velocity, causing an incredible drop in the point of impact. And so that all showed in the video. That video has gone out, it's been viewed like 20,000 plus times. Okay, it's a pretty popular video. But after making that video, I was contacted by some friends who had also tested the Broadhead at farther range, at longer range, and they'd not seen the results that I had seen. At the ATA recently, I spoke to the designer of Annihilator, and he told me that that was not their results either, that they saw really good, consistent flight even at longer ranges. So I told them I would very gladly test it again. I tested it again today. I went out to the range. It's like sub-zero with the wind chill today. It was really cold, and there's like 1.5 feet of snow out there where I was, but I tested it, and they were absolutely right. It flew extremely well, even at longer ranges. And what I realized is I'd made a twofold mistake. First, before I had tested the Broadhead, I was talking to a friend about the Broadhead. This is before the first test. And he told me that when he shot it at longer ranges, there was a really large drop due to the wind resistance of that big surface area cut that they have. And so that was already in my mind. So then when I shot it and tested it and there was a big drop, I thought, oh, it just confirms what my friend had said. I didn't like retest it or question my test results enough. That was my first mistake. I shouldn't have had that in my mind. The second mistake that I made is I had made some adjustments to my sight tapes, and I didn't take that into consideration when I was testing the Annihilator. And so I feel really badly. I went out, I made the adjustments in my sight tapes today. Boom, dead on. I feel really badly that I made both of those mistakes, and both of those mistakes really adversely affected the reputation of Annihilator to those 20,000 plus people that viewed it, and to my reputation for just doing a poor job in testing the Broadhead. So that's why I wanted to do a completely new video. I'm deleting that other video and I'm putting out this new video, and it works out good because I've got new test mediums for 2020 that I'm using anyway, so it's a good way to do those. But first I just want to start with a sincere apology. I am so sorry to Annihilator, to the loyal fans, and especially sorry to those who I've turned off from the Annihilator, because it actually does fly very well even at longer ranges. Okay, so let me explain the Broadhead just a little bit for those of you that aren't familiar with it. When I first heard about it, I wasn't that interested in testing it because the cutting diameter is sub 1 inch. It's 0.91 inches of cut. To me, that's just like so small. I thought, why would I want to test a head that has that small of a cut? However, what I wasn't understanding was the design has this like scoop mentality to it, to where while it has a small cutting diameter, when it presses through a medium like an animal tissue, it's actually displacing an incredible amount of tissue. So the hole that it creates and the tissue that's displaced is way greater than if it was just 3 cross blades of 0.91 inches. It has this incredible surface area. That showed in the tests that I had done. It drained a water jug in record time. It put a big hole through MDF. And so I'm going to be retesting it and showing that today. But that's basically how it's designed. It's designed to put a lot bigger hole than the size suggests. The size allows it to fly really well with a very short design, very small surface area laterally like that, but then it displaces a lot of tissue, and so it makes a really nice hole. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be testing it through my medium for this year. It's a 1/2 inch layer of MDF surrounded by 1/3 of an inch of rubber foam mat, and then it's going to go into clear gel. I have this clear gel by Clear Ballistics, so you can see what happens to the broadhead in that gel. And I do that for all the broadheads that I'm testing this year, and I'll put the specs at the end of each video so you can compare the specs with all the different broadheads and see which one does best after all the different tests that I've done this year. Then in addition, I'm going to shoot it through a 22 gauge steel plate. And the way I'm doing that is I'll shoot it through 5 times or up to 5 times. I stop shooting it through the steel plate when there begins to be significant damage to the blades. So I see basically how many times it can be shot into the steel plate without facing significant damage, but I stop at 5 because with some heads I could keep going forever. The cool thing about this head is it's a solid piece of 4140 tool steel. So 4140 is a really high quality of tool steel. So it's way more resistant to impact and way tougher than stainless steel, for example. It's got a Rockwell hardness of 52, which is a pretty good balance of being soft enough to resharpen and hard enough to really keep its edge. And another thing I really like about it is the resharpening for this is extremely easy. It's like the Bishop Holy Trinity and some other 3 blades. You can just lay it flat on a flat stone or any kind of a flat edge surface and just do 10 strokes like this, 10 strokes like this, 10 strokes like this, and then like 9 strokes, 9 strokes, 9 strokes, 8 strokes, 8 strokes, 8 strokes. You keep doing that and man, it will come to a razor edge. So it's super easy to resharpen that way just by laying it flat. So let's get into the tests and let's see how it does. Bullseye. Here you can see the penetration of the Annihilator after going through the MDF and the rubber foam mats and into the gel, and it penetrated 8 1/4 inches. Here's the steel plate after I shot it 5 times with the same head. You can see they really do make nice holes. I mean, they're not just 3 slits, but it really does displace a tremendous amount of tissue, so to speak, there. In terms of the durability of the edge retention, I mean, this thing is like pristine. There is not a mark on it. I'm trying to zoom in here so you can see it. I mean, there is just not a mark on it. The edge is just fantastic. It doesn't quite shave hair, but man, it still bites in my nail. I mean, it's really impressive. Okay, so what do you think about the Annihilator retest? I'm really grateful that some of you encouraged me to retest it because I knew it was a great head before. It tested really well in everything except long distance. But now knowing that it flies extremely well, even at longer ranges, man, it's gone from a very good head to a phenomenal head. And so I have that confidence at longer ranges. It gets a 10 out of 10 in terms of accuracy at long ranges. The penetration through the MDF and the gel, it did very good. It did better than some heads. Did not do as good as some other heads, but still good penetration. Made a nice hole in that MDF as well as the gel. The water drainage test was just otherworldly, okay? I don't know any other word to describe it. The reason I use the water bag drainage test instead of a water jug drainage test is I found that in a water jug, because the plastic is pretty stiff, sometimes the plastic folds in, sometimes it comes out, sometimes it stays in place, and so the results are very inconsistent. Even with one head, I can get very differing results, but with the water bag drainage test, and I fill it up 10 cups, the same amount, that the line is the same in all the tests that I do, try to shoot it in the same spot every time. It's much more consistent, much more like an animal, because the bag is a little more it's a little more nimble, just like the tissue or the hide of an animal. And so what you see is kind of what you're going to get in terms of the drainage. And what happens with The Annihilator is, as it goes in and it displaces so much water so readily, it actually creates a back pressure to where the water, and you could see it kind of in the video. When I looked at it in super slow motion, I could really see it. It makes that hole going in, and then there's this whoosh, where it just sucks the water after that. And that's why it drained in like less than a second. That was just amazing to see that. It's an indication of what may happen in the bloodletting and tissue damage within an animal as well. I can't wait to test that at some point in the future. In terms of the durability, man, it's as durable as they come. I mean, to see it go through 5 layers of steel like that, back to back to back, with 0 damage. That's what that 4140 tool steel is going to do. It kept its edge really, really well. So it did excellent in all of these categories. This is a winner of a head, and it's something to really consider for pretty much any animal you're going after. Give the Annihilator a look. Great job, Annihilator.